The amethyst blade, taken by many to mean one's understanding of the light and darkness within themselves, a rare and very curious color for a Jedi to wield, and one that became less and less popular as the Order went on. But why is it that Anakin Skywalker never wielded a purple blade, but instead a blue one? Greetings, acolytes of the Force and of the galaxy, and welcome back to the archives. In Legends, the color of kyber crystals was a direct result of the type of crystal used in the lightsaber. Most Adegan crystals were either blue or green, synthetic crystals were often red, and only rare kyber crystals were purple. Purple, such as Mace Windu's that he got as a prize from the natives of the world of Hurricane. However, lightsaber crystals in canon work much differently, as they actually have a living will and agency within the Force. This means that they are somewhat alive, and they bond with their user, starting off as mostly transparent crystals, and then changing color to attune to their user's nature and signature in the Force, with Sith red crystals being a result of a process called bleeding. The out-of-universe explanation that we know is that purple lightsabers just didn't exist until Attack of the Clones, but the in-universe explanation that we need may actually point to something very interesting with Anakin Skywalker as a character. So, let us begin. Like we mentioned earlier, canon kyber crystal colors are a direct result of the crystal responding to its owner's nature. Interestingly though, despite the color of the crystal, a lightsaber's blade color can be changed if one altered their angle or the frequency of the crystal within the lightsaber itself. This is what happened when Anakin Skywalker constructed Ahsoka's blue lightsabers. We all know that the lightsaber colors all have meanings depending on the nature of the wielder. Those lightsaber colors have been erroneously labeled as blue being for Jedi Guardians, and green denoting a Jedi Consular. However, this is not always true. Some Guardians such as Qui-Gon Jinn and Kit Fisto have green lightsabers, and many Consulars like Jocasta Nu wield blue lightsabers. These colors simply reflect the nature of the wielder, with blue representing those who decide to manifest the Force outwardly for physical results, and green representing those who decide to seek the deeper mysteries of the Force and harness it internally through other curious methods and perhaps different canon color lightsabers. Other colors have been achieved, such as the yellow lightsabers of the Jedi Temple Guards and the black darksaber of Tar Vizsla. But the color purple represents the minority of Jedi who have acknowledged and made peace with the fact that they have darkness within themselves. Many believe that purple, in and of itself, represents the idea of being in balance with the Force, but this idea is actually a misunderstanding of the violet crystals. Mace Windu is a good example of this. You will be hard-pressed to find anyone more strictly and staunchly loyal to the Jedi way in the Republic as Windu. Perhaps the only person that takes the Jedi more zealously than he does is Ki-Adi-Mundi. Master Windu comes against darkness in an aggressive way, shunning and destroying anything that might threaten to wield the dark side. Windu's very lightsaber form Vaapad showcases this perfectly, as Vaapad is the way of turning one's opponent's darkness against them, making it the perfect counter to a Sith or a Dark Jedi everywhere. Darksiders feared Mace Windu for this, but this is not because Mace found balance in the Force, quite the opposite, as Mace is perhaps too rigid in the light, and we've seen this based on his track record. And in order to do this, he first actually did have to acknowledge the great darkness within himself. As a Jedi Padawan, he had to be kept from giving into his anger multiple times, once even when he was about to execute a perpetrator. This event forever changed Windu and caused him to confront that he had potential for great evil if he was let to run rampant. What he had to do was to bury it deep down where it would fester, but more like keep it on a leash and make his own darkness work for him. This was how he was able to achieve Vaapad without going off the deep end in the darkness. It required intense training and focus to achieve, and Windu refused to teach it to anybody else, believing that many of the other Jedi would not be as strong-willed and able to control their own darkness in the same ways that he had mastered it. The other persons who have purple blades include the likes of Darth Traya, who actually had 3. Traya's were an interesting case, as though she was a Dark Lady of the Sith, she was still insistent on the use of her purple lightsabers. This was because she was almost the mirror opposite of Windu. She was fully and immovably involved in the darkness, but yet understood a broader perspective of the Force that allowed her to accept some truths of the light side. Not enough to practice the light side in any capacity, but enough for her to appreciate it from afar. This was incredibly controversial for this era, especially for the Sith who loathed anyone of their own who used purple blades. And then of course, you have Mara Jade, who, although was trained originally by Darth Sidious, still became a Jedi in Luke Skywalker's order. She was trained mostly by Kyle Katarn, who held the belief that no Force ability was inherently of light or dark side nature, but rather dependent on the intent of the wielder. This perspective is certainly what garnered her own amethyst blade. So with this in mind, why is Anakin our outlier today? As the Chosen One, he should have wielded a purple lightsaber in theory. The key here is that when a kyber crystal connects with a Force wielder, they are attaching itself to their nature, and the blade will change in color, but this does not mean their true nature, simply the nature that is revealed, something that they hold as their current identity. Basically, how the user perceives themselves in the Force, not literally as they are. But whatever the user holds as the truth of themselves is what will reveal in the blade, and whatever they bury down will be hidden away even from the kyber crystal. Thanks to the release of the High Republic era, we learned that it wasn't too long ago that the Jedi were actually sporting an entire spectrum of lightsaber colors, with not only colors like purple, but also colors like orange, pink, and yellow being far more prominent. But also different shades and hues of colors such as green and blue, which give us a cayenne and even a teal look. In the High Republic novels, we learned that their firm significance and the change of the order is represented by their blades. And during the High Republic era, the encouragement of more creative views on the Force. The diverse interpretations that each Jedi has on the Force heavily influenced the various kinds of lightsabers that they wielded. Again though, when the order became closed off and strict, these colors went extinct. Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber turned blue because he desired to prove himself to his master and the other Jedi, and be the best Jedi that he could. As a result, he more or less masked his true nature, and took on the perspective of himself that he was supposed to be a Jedi the right way, thus the Sapphire Crystal. And while the Sapphire Crystal did represent Anakin Skywalker in many ways, it was not his true self, or at least not the self that he would one day become. Unlike Mace Windu, who accepts his darker half, and that he did have tendencies to go rogue sometimes, Anakin Skywalker shunned this to the greatest reaches of his mind, where not even his kyber crystal could feel it. This representing the failings of the Jedi Order, reflected in the very blade of the Chosen One. Anakin desperately wanted to be the best of the Jedi, and he couldn't do this while his darkness existed within him. Rather than make peace with his anger and his attachments, he was shamed by them, shamed into denying they ever existed. In all truth, if Anakin Skywalker had been trained by Qui-Gon Jinn, I full-heartedly believe that if he imprinted upon a kyber crystal, the crystal would turn purple. Learning of his attachments, his darkness, and learning to master them as Windu had. But as the Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker was given no such leeway. As if the Chosen One were to show inklings of the dark side, it would have terrified the wider order. And Anakin knew this. But anyway, my friends and acolytes, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on our analysis of the purple blade, and our analysis on Anakin Skywalker? As always, my friends and curious acolytes, reach out with the Force and Force crush that subscribe button if you haven't already. It is your destiny.
Just let me fall to my